An insurance adjuster for a property owner in Texas has a checklist. Before they ever talk to you, before they ever return your call, they are looking at the surveillance footage. They're not doing it to see what happened to you. They're doing it to see, did you look down before you fell? And also, how long was that thing on the floor? But here's the trap. They don't need to prove that you were careless. They just need enough evidence to reclassify you. And in Texas, your legal rights change dramatically depending on which category you fall into. My name is Max the Axe, the gold standard in personal injury, and I've handled so many premises liability cases, and I know a lot of people get this area of the law completely wrong. And what you don't know about what you're classified as when you're on someone else's property is a complete difference between getting a settlement or never getting a dime. It's not just slip and fall. Most people hear the phrase premises liability and they think a slip and fall at a grocery store. That's just one version. And if you don't know about the different types of premises liability lawsuits, you could be missing out on justice for your case. For example, if you were attacked at a parking garage or at an apartment complex with very little security, that's a premises liability case. If you get hurt because of a broken railing at an apartment complex, that's premises liability. If you're injured by a maintenance failure that the landlord ignored for months, that is also premises liability. And most people never file an action because they don't realize that this term applies to their case. Premises liability covers any injury caused by a dangerous condition on someone else's property. Stores, apartment complexes, parking lots, hotels, restaurants, if there was a dangerous condition on these premises and the owner knew or should have known about it and didn't warn you, they may be liable for your injuries. The insurance company is counting on you thinking small. If you think that premises liability only means a slip and fall at a grocery store, then they know that they can get off the hook for something that they caused through their negligence. This is especially true for negligent security, code violations, or known hazards that they've either known about or has been reported to them that they have ignored for years. So here's what you need to understand. Premises liability is not just about a slip and fall at a store. It encompasses a lot of different categories. And the insurance adjuster is hoping that you don't know this. How Texas classifies you on someone else's property. The insurance adjuster's first move is to classify you. And the category they put you in determines how much protection Texas law provides you. Texas recognizes three different categories. First, an invitee is someone who's on the owner's property with their permission and for the benefit of the owner. Think about when you go to a restaurant, when you go to a store, when you go to a hotel. You're there for their benefit. You're shopping and spending money, and they profit. The same is true for apartment complexes. They want you there. You're there because you pay rent, and they benefit. This category of invitees get the highest protection. The owner needs to be inspecting the premises, fixing the hazards, and keeping the property safe for the people who are coming on there for their benefit. They are required to warn you of anything that they knew or should have known about. The second category is called a licensee. They are on the property with permission, but not for the owner's benefit. This is someone like a social guest or a delivery driver. The owner has to warn you about the known dangers, but they don't have to go out inspecting and looking for potential problems. And the final category is exactly what the premises owner is looking for: a trespasser. If they can argue that you were not authorized to be in the area where you were, they can say that they have no duty to you whatsoever. In that case, their only obligation is not to hurt you intentionally. But here's what people miss. Your status can change while you're on the property. When you first go into the store, you might be an invitee. If you wander behind a sign that says employees only, now you're a trespasser. And the insurance adjusters know this. They're looking for it. So here's what you need to confirm. What was your status or your category or your classification right at the moment of injury? Here are the four things that you have to prove. And if you can't prove the four things, your case is not just weak, it might be completely dead. First, the property owner had a dangerous condition that created an unreasonable risk of harm. This is not just a minor imperfection, this is an unreasonable risk. Second, The owner either knew about it or should have known about it. If they knew about it, this is called actual knowledge. So they saw it, they were told it, they were aware of it. But if they should have known about it, then that's called constructive knowledge. Constructive knowledge means that they should have known about it through reasonable inspection. And this is where the insurance company will fight you the hardest. They will argue, of course, that they had no idea that this thing was on the floor and there's no way they could have known. Third, that the owner failed to fix it, repair it, or warn you about it. This is the breach, that they knew about it, either constructively or actually, and they did nothing about it. Fourth is that the failure to fix that problem caused your injuries. Not just that you were on the property, but that the dangerous condition is exactly what caused you the injury. But here's the trap. Texas follows modified comparative negligence. What that means is if the owner can prove that you were at least 50% responsible for the fall or for the injury, then you get nothing. That's not just a reduced amount. We're talking about zero. And the insurance adjuster will be looking for any reason whatsoever to get that number to 50% or more. So here's what they look at. They'll look at what kind of shoes you were wearing, and they'll blame you if you were wearing sandals. They'll look at your phone to see if you were looking at your phone at the time. They'll look at anything whatsoever to prove that you, in the moment, were also negligent. So here's what you preserve. Any bit of evidence that proves that you did not do anything wrong on that day. It's important to preserve as much information as you can because trust me, years later, when the case is in litigation, everyone from the property is going to forget what happened. Everyone will say that they don't remember what happened on that date. So the responsibility is on you to preserve as much evidence as possible. Names, photos, information, everything that you can. The defenses they use against you. The property owner's insurance company has a very short list of defenses that they use, but they do use them in every single case. The first, open and obvious. The first is called open and obvious. If the hazard was so big that anyone should be able to see it, well then they don't owe you any duty to warn you. You should have seen it coming. This is why they put the orange cones near the wet spots, because those orange cones are big, open, and obvious. And if you slip on it when there's the orange cone there, well, you should have seen the orange cone. That's the argument the insurance company will make every time. But even when there isn't an orange cone, they're going to say that the hazard was so big, you should have seen it anyway. Why didn't you look where you were going? It doesn't matter that you were looking straight ahead right where you were walking, like most people do whenever they walk. You're not looking at your feet when you're walking around. Nonetheless, the insurance company will always make this defense. But under Texas law, open and obvious doesn't automatically kill your case. If the lighting, the layout, or the obstructions make the hazard harder to see, that's in your benefit. Also, if you had no practical choice to avoid the hazard, for example, if it's in the only way that you need to get from point A to point B, that also helps you. Texas recognizes something called the necessary use argument, which can help your case dramatically. Here's the next defense. You assume the risk. You actually saw the hazard, and yet you proceeded anyway. You knew it was dangerous, but you still walked on the slippery surface. Even if your head was completely straight, you never looked down and saw it, they will argue that you did and you assumed the risk. The third defense, you're always partly at fault. The argument that I see most commonly is you should always look where you're going. It doesn't matter if the hazard is almost invisible to the naked eye. They expect you to be walking around the store or whatever premises it is with your head looking at the ground at your feet wherever you're going. They don't need to have any evidence for this one. It's just a common defense that everyone's at least a little bit at fault if they slip or trip and hurt themselves. But here is what the insurance adjuster is betting on, that you didn't preserve any evidence. You didn't take any photos. You didn't write down the names of any witnesses who also saw the dangerous hazard on the floor. You didn't write down the name of the manager that you spoke to about the incident when they said that they knew about it for 20 days before the thing happened. You didn't get an incident report documented from the property owner on the day of the incident. All these things can go missing and it can hurt your case dramatically. Like I said before, trust me on this. Years later, no one's going to remember this incident at all. and you are going to be behind the 8 ball when it comes to evidence. Without the evidence, they have a pretty strong case, because if you're relying on them to give you information that hurts them, it's unlikely. You have to be the one to preserve this evidence. So here's what you demand. You want the property owner's maintenance records, the inspection logs, and any prior incident reports for a same or similar hazard. Let me tell you about someone named David. David was at a big box retailer one Saturday afternoon. He's walking, shopping, and all of a sudden, he falls to the ground. He rounds the end of an aisle and slips on a wet patch on the floor. His feet go out from under him and he lands hard on his lower back. He's initially embarrassed by the whole thing. Other shoppers look at him, and even a person from the store comes over and asks if he's okay. David says that he's fine. He gets up and he finishes his shopping. He doesn't ask for a manager. He doesn't ask to file an incident report. He doesn't take a photo, and he never gets a name of any of the witnesses. He also doesn't ask them if they have any surveillance cameras. 2 days later, he's in bed and his back is completely locked up. He can't even get up to move. He calls the store and they say they have no reported incident of anything happening 2 days ago. He asks them if they have the footage of around that time Saturday afternoon. They say the footage has already been overwritten. David's case here is effectively dead, and it's not because he did anything wrong. He was walking around like a normal human being. However, because he didn't preserve any evidence or file an incident report, his case is effectively over. This is why premises cases are a lot harder than car accidents. In a car accident, there's a police report, and it's usually pretty clear who's at fault. The paper trail usually starts before anyone ever leaves the scene. In a premises case, there's usually not any evidence unless you create it yourself, or unless you insist that the owner create it. There's no mandatory investigation, there's no officer on the scene, and no automatic documentation of exactly what happened. The surveillance footage is on a loop. Most of the time, it recycles every 14 days or 30 days. The witnesses are other shoppers or other tenants. They leave and they never come back. The insurance company knows all of this. They are counting on the evidence disappearing. Time is not on your side in these cases. It's on theirs. Here's what you need to demand: a written incident report before you ever leave the property. The biggest mistake that people make in premises liability cases is the waiting. They think that the evidence will be there when they're ready, and they're wrong. If you or someone you love has been hurt on someone else's property in Texas, give my office a call for a free consultation. Let us get the letter to the property owner to preserve the evidence before it's too late. And if you want to know exactly what to do after a slip and fall at a store, step by step, from the moment it happens, watch our next video. I'm Max the Axe from Lone Star Injury Attorneys, and we fight for injured Texans. Let us fight for you.